Hello, everyone. This is Dawn here. I have a few things to share with you today. Just so honored to be with you on the way. And it is Thursday, the 18th of May. And I hope that you can feel what I have been feeling in the last week. I am fortunate in that I am in the woods here. I'm dog sitting and off in a very quiet place of solitude, been going on lots of long walks. And I have several things to share. I don't know yet if I will break this up into several different videos or just make it one long video. And I'm going to be speaking today just from my heart and soul. And I have made a few notes over the course of probably a week. And there are random threads that I'll weave in and out of. But I am trusting that it is going to come together as one message for you, perhaps broken up into several parts. Some of this is going to be very much as if I were writing, because that's how I wrote my notes, as if I were going to write one of my sermons I'll never preach, or in another case, write a reflection or an experience that I had, and some things that came to me on one of the walks in the woods. So just bear with me and I will share it. And if it speaks to you, then please do watch. I really trust that these messages meet people where they are when they are for your highest good. And trust yourself to know if this is calling to you. So let me just begin with a bit, well, it's actually a series of thoughts and reflections that came on my longest walk in the woods, where, thank goodness, I had my little bear horn, although I didn't actually sound it, but there was a bear lumbering about there in the woods on the mountainside as I climbed. So the topic of this first little part that I'll share is, I'm going to title it, "In the Middle of the Journey of Our Life." In the middle of the journey of our life. And that is taken from a quote of Dante, which I will get to in just a bit. But let me just start with this. Every story has a beginning, a middle, an end. That's what we were taught, right? Every story has its beginning. Every story has its middle. Every story has its end. And ours, for those of us called to the path of sacred partnership, is a story. It's an extraordinary story in an ordinary time. Or is it an ordinary story in an extraordinary time? Our story, your story, my story, began very ordinarily. It began as any human story begins, with our birth, which some say is but a forgetting. And we were born into this world that we all share. But here, in the middle of our life, a new picture is emerging. A new picture of the story of our lives is coming into more and more clarity with the passage of every day. And I believe that this turn we're making right now, May 18th, 19th, 20th, into the beginning of June, is an absolutely tender time for new life bursting forth, and that includes new life in the middle of our story. So in the dark wood that Dante talks about in his Inferno, in the dark wood of our life, any semblance of the straight way seemed lost. We saw twists and turns, all of us, on our journeys. We saw, instead of the crooked way being made straight, it looked like the straight way being made crooked. And it's all a matter of perspective. But along the way, we encountered these moments of what many refer to as the dark night of the soul, or we encountered moments where everything was in chaos, or it seemed that all our dreams were dashed, or that everything we had been working for, every single reason we thought we were here, was shattered and blown to bits in the wind. In the dark wood, any semblance of a straight way seemed lost, and we stood We stood there, shaken to our core, just trembling, like the women outside the tomb in Luke's version of the story of the resurrection. We stood afraid. Why were we afraid? Well, we were afraid because we could no more deny a truth that shone bright and struck us like lightning, blinding us, shattering everything we thought we knew. In the darkness, we saw at first as through a glass dimly. And now, only now, here in the middle of the story, it's beginning to come clear. And it may change again. Who we came to be, we're beginning to see this. Who we have always been, we're beginning to know this. Yes, every story has its beginning, its middle, and its end. Yet here and now, in the middle, we begin. We begin and we begin again. We question the true beginning and we are uncertain of how this story will end. And we find ourselves here in the middle of our life, our one life, in the middle of our life in a dark wood. What will we do? What we know now, and all we know really, we know either by heart or by experience. Most of us know that this experience that we are in the middle of is larger than life. It's far bigger than who we think we are, who we thought we were. And experience has taught us and shown us again and again that we have come to walk in the way of a life that is nothing more than mystery. It's an unknown. How is it going to turn out? Well, there are so many factors beyond our knowing and our control. And it's clear to most of us on this journey that this is a path that requires a surrender to divine will. And that means in the moment, not just a one-time surrender, not just a one-time laying aside of our own plan for our lives. No, over and over and over again, trusting life, walking in the way, not knowing where everything is leading, what another person will do, what we will choose in the course of any given circumstance. So this life, for many of us, has broken us open and poured us out. It's messy. It's anything but controllable. It's like a river running wild. It's like a stream whose healing waters are otherworldly, not of this world. It is messy, as I said. It's uncontrollable. It's just absolutely unpredictable. It's an ocean of grief with depths that are just unfathomable. It's the still waters that reflect back to us the unexpected reflection in the one whose life always leads us back to the light that rises up from within. Again and again and again, we see ourselves, we meet ourselves, and we often tremble in the dark wood, afraid. But here we are in the middle of the story. And some days we're dancing in the dark. Other days we're just standing there, frozen, paralyzed. Other days we're, seeking to run the race set before us and go, 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 full steam ahead, all systems go. And other days, we're just one foot after the other and we seem to get stuck in the mud. It's always and ever changing, this journey. And here in the middle, there is so much we do not know. So, like I said, we feel many days that we are in the dark, dancing alone in the dark. But are we really dancing alone? Are we really even in the dark? Or are we only forgetting to see that we have come to be the light? We, and by we, I mean me and my twin. I mean you and your twin, your sacred divine partner. I mean me and my life. I mean you and your life, where you are, here, right now, in the middle, here and now. Whether you think yourself to be stuck or whether you see yourself as moving along, sailing full steam ahead, wherever you are in the middle of our life, in the dark wood, there, you have come for a purpose. We took on difficult situations in our life. particularly for those of us called to the path of sacred partnership, who see ourselves as having or sharing one soul with another. Those of us who came for this particular variation on the theme of life often took on quite difficult situations. In my case, and reflecting upon this in the last couple of weeks, there are two things each of us in this sacred divine partnership agreed to do. The first is very common to almost all twin flames, twin souls universally, and that is to heal ancestral patterns and generational patterning, to include those that have been ingrained in the very fabric of our being, our DNA. We took on the task of living those, of being born into a certain set of circumstances, of remembering in our bodies the pain and the trauma of various life conditions that occurred, or even soul wounds that we have encountered, in our previous iterations of our existence as a soul. We took on this task of being present to these ancestral patterns and thereby purifying those streams within us first, and then for all of the others around us, those who we might call family, those who are soul family, those we remember, those here and now, and those then and there who have passed on to the life beyond life, and those yet to come. The way I've been showing it, we are healing 7 generations back and 7 generations forward. Some say it's much more. And in any case, we took on this. We raised our hands and said, I will go. I will show up. I will take on that responsibility for my love for humanity, because I want to be a part of setting the captives free. I want to be a part of God's joy of all who are deserving equally of life, and the life more abundant. And so we have come here to heal ancestral lineage and patterning in our families and in the circles of belonging with which we identify. And so this is very much a part of my journey, my twins' journey, and likely your journey if you are watching this video, is to heal that which has kept a group of beings, a group of humanity, usually self-identified, but sometimes labeled by society as well. We came to set free all of those conditional factors that limit our full experience of life and the life more abundant, that impede the flow of love, that stop us from remembering that we are light. And while we may be in a dark wood, the dark wood is not who we are. We came to heal this in some form, some portion of humanity. And we chose this, or we were chosen, and really, whichever way you look at it, or both, which is what I believe. We are here in this incarnation, in this earthly reality, as bearers of the light of God. And we're put into this sort of lockdown or diminishment of life, not feeling that we are free to live in full expression, to be who we are, literally feeling that we are resigned to or confined to something. We are here. We are here and we are now. The second thing that I know that my twin and I share, and this may be true for some of you, and if not, think about, a parallel set of circumstances that is true for you. Because this varies, I believe, probably depending on the soul group and or your individual chosen life path. And so my sacred partner and I believe, agreed to a difficult task of working through heavy illusions around shame. And specifically this threefold illusion that I'm going to talk about here in a second. And this threefold illusion is sort of like the leaves of three that seem to always find me. So, as an aside, I am highly susceptible to poison oak and poison ivy. I've had it so many times. And that's interesting in and of itself, because often skin conditions are representative of our feeling vulnerable or unsafe in this world. And that was most definitely true of my own experience. I had so I'll talk about that in a different place or time, but I had just a tremendous issues with that as a child and a young adolescent. And really it's recurred through my life, particularly in times when Spirit was trying to wake me up to what was really happening. And sometimes I got the message and sometimes I didn't. So those leaves of three, think of that in the forest floor, right? And the poison ivy that grows. And that's what this threefold illusion is like. And this, we agreed, my twin and I, to immerse ourselves in this threefold illusion. This is my belief. I'm not speaking for him, but immerse ourselves in this like forest floor filled literally with shame, 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 shame. And those, for the better part of our lives, we thought that was the world. This forest floor filled with the poison ivy everywhere, inescapable, was the world. I know for myself, I most definitely experienced this. And it's played out in three ways. So it's three distinct them is shame. And for myself, I think for me and him, that varies slightly. For me, myself, which is all I can speak to at this point, that has very much been around other core issues with regard to humiliation and the what is the word? The consumption, the absolute like consumption of my story and my life, or my perception of that, as if there were no life anymore, because it was consumed, tainted, completely taken over by these poisonous weeds that I then began to identify with and be resigned to. So this threefold illusion of shame played out in three ways. First is shame self-perpetuated and projected upon us, or me, regarding my true identity, and the pure exploration from the level of soul without restriction or false confinement of that identity, of who I am at a soul level. Let me say that again. So the shame, again, it was self-perpetuated because it was like, programmed in me. I just, I was immersed in it. I often talk about being dipped in shame and feeling like I am the shame. I am that. And this, again, it ties into so many different areas that I'm not going to go into any depth here, but that shame around a true identity is the first leaf. And the second leaf is shame, again, self-perpetuated and also projected upon me regarding true desire and the pure expression of life itself, of the life that is arising from the impulse and the desire that is pure and untainted. So there was shame placed upon that true, pure desire in many forms, and there was a restriction, again, a false confinement of that true desire. So true identity, true desire, and the third leaf on this poisonous weed of shame, this threefold illusion, is shame that was self-perpetuated and also projected upon me, or upon us, regarding our true service, and the pure expansion from our soul's truth and radiance without restriction or any false confinement of the true service we are here to offer. In other words, a watering down of what we're allowed to flow, what others will permit us to flow through us, surrendering our own power, our own sovereignty to typically a human system, and or a set of rules that were invented by humans, not by God. And so again, shame, 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 shame on you regarding who you are. Shame on you regarding what you want. Shame on you regarding who you think you are and have come to be, and who gave you the right to serve in such a way or to proclaim such a truth. And then there are many, many ways that that spreads, right? Those three leaves then spread into a variety of things. Again, self-perpetuated. It's a story we tell ourselves and projected upon us. And I will say reflected back to us by our twins experience, by our sacred partner's path. These are inescapable lessons. Now, the shame was the core, wound that I myself have experienced to the greatest degree. And again, the shame about my true identity, my true desire, and my true service. What I know to be true, what is within me, my soul's truth and radiance. That's my star power, that star rising within. So I want to share an experience I had a few days ago on one of my long walks in the woods here. And I'm just going to read to you actually what I shared on social media after I came out of the woods 4 or 5 hours later. And what happened was I had followed, let me just read this. Actually, I think it'll sum it up nicely. I followed the birdsong and a deer deep into the woods today, emerging hours later to an eagle angel with a wingspan that stretched across darkening skies. And I'll use that as the cover for this video. 3 quotes were very much with me. First, Dante, who wrote in his book, The Inferno, in the middle of the journey of our life, I came to myself within a dark wood where the straight way was lost. Ah, how hard a thing it is to tell what a wild and rough and stubborn wood this was, which in my thought renews the fear. Then this, the second of the 3 quotes, was this from John the Beloved, or the Beloved one who wrote 1 John 4:18 anyway, which says, there is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, because fear has to do with judgment. The one who fears is not yet made perfect in love. And the 3rd quote was Paul, who put it like this in his no-nonsense letter to the Romans. For you did not receive a spirit of slavery that returns you to fear, but you received the spirit of sonship, by whom we cry, Abba, Father. We are God's children. You and me, we are God's children, co-heirs with Christ, meant to reign with him and to share in the celebration of this life. So let the dark wood and all the crooked things lead you to the stream and back again in time to perfect love in which there is no fear, only the freedom to take flight and to grow into who you have always been. This is what the eagle angel in the sky, the eagle angel as I dubbed it in the sky, was speaking to me when I emerged from the dark wood that day. It's 2:22 as I'm recording this right now. So Dante ends each of the sections of his trilogy, Inferno, Purgatory, and what is the Divine Comedy? Okay, Heaven, not Heaven, what's it called? Oh my gosh, I'm just totally, Paradiso. So Dante ends Inferno, Purgatory, and Paradise with a single word. And what is that word? The single word that is repeated at the end of these 3 acts, or these 3 books within the trilogy, is stars. You can look at the stars, or you can stay stuck in the story. That's my take on what all 3 were trying to say. Dante with his 3 books in the Divine Comedy, the John the Beloved, or the author of 1 John 4, and the Apostle Paul when he wrote to the Romans. So what are you choosing? Here in the middle of our life, we have a choice. here in the middle, right now. So consider today your true identity and all the ways you may have buried it by following some script that somebody else wrote, or by bowing down to false confinement and a partitioning off of the parts of the whole of who you are. Think about that. Really, really consider that. Consider your true identity. Consider your true desire and all the restrictions you've allowed to be built up like barriers, like giant, unscalable walls that keep you from the full experience of life, which is incorruptible when it is allowed to flow. When it's allowed to flow and we are allowed to be one with that flow, when we don't permit other people to have a say in how we move down the river of life, or what we experience, the degree to which we experience life, and whether we just dip our toes in or dive in head first or somewhere in between. And our desire is our desire. Whatever your way of experiencing life is your way. So consider your true desire. And consider also your true service and all the ways that you might have, again, siphoned off your energy or allowed it to be siphoned off, and all of the ways you have locked yourself down or corralled your deepest knowing that springs forth from the desert of your life and its many mirages all the time, eternally. It's an eternal spring. There really is an eternal fountain of youth, and it is found in honoring the call of spirit and in knowing what your true service is and allowing yourself to step into that, because only you know, and you know what you know when you need to know it, and now is the time to know it. What is your true identity? What is your true desire? What is your true service? What is your offering to this life? How have you come that others might have life and have it to the full? How are you walking in the way of your life? In the middle of the story of our life, we pick up the pen. We begin.